regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, October 16th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cagney? Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Gillis?
Here.
Trustee Hyden? Here. Trustee Tivoli? Here. Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor Lou?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please let the record reflect that Trustee Gillis is attended by phone. And, we'll talk. Trustee Captain, she's kitchen. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll open the floor to public comment. If you'd like to be made a matter of public record, please stand, state your name and address. Carol.
My name is Carol. My address is 14433 Cosmo Avenue. I am asking, is anyone doing anything about the flooding in our backyard?
Superintendent Weiner has been out there. It was discussed in the court case that you brought against the village, and the village is not, again, the village's position is that there's nothing that those homeowners are doing that are against the village code or ordinance.
You said that superintendent was out there.
He was out there, he's had pictures, it was discussed in the court case that you took against the village, and the judge pretty much threw it out, so there's nothing more we can do. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Jean Bartecki. Last night we were at the Historical Society for the Safety Committee meeting, and there's a big giant TV in there. I wonder if anybody knows what it's there for. I mean, it's huge.
Trustee Gillis?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Really big TV in the Historical Society.
Yeah, I've seen one, I have no idea where it came from.
Rather nice donation.
I'm just hoping that it's not becoming like a dumping ground for stuff again.
Well, there's only a few people that have access to the building, so I would have to say that if it's not from the volunteers on a Saturday, that we can ask Public Works.
Okay,
All right.
but I found it just really odd. It's one of those, it's like,
Yeah, it's the projector TV.
yeah,
They weigh
yeah,
about
thank you.
400 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh, like an older projection TV?
Yes.
Not a flat screen TV.
Huh?
Not a
No,
flat screen, not
not a
like
flat
this.
screen.
No, it's a boat anchor that sits right inside the doorway, so somebody had to bring it in that had a key and needed a couple bodies to lift it.
I will reach out to Superintendent Sperry and see. Anyone else have any idea?
No idea.
Just found it really odd.
That is odd. Anything else?
Did you guys decide to make a scarecrow?
No, we're sorry.
Okay.
We just have a lot going on.
Good?
It was a
Done?
very good meeting.
Nothing? Okay. Then I will.
Answered it already.
Then I will close the floor to public comment and move on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple updates. Tomorrow, Keep Midlothian Beautiful will be meeting at their monthly meeting at noon. And in conjunction with that, I think the responses that we're getting regarding the textile recycle drive have been pretty amazing. So I'm hoping we meet our goal of 1,200 pounds. I really hope we exceed it. So thanks, Rita, for all the behind-the-scenes work on that, because there's been a lot of planning going on with that. Second item that I have on the agenda is update for the CMAP Local Technical Assistance Grant. It did get submitted today, which should have taken 15 minutes. It took 4 hours because of some link issues. But anyway, it is submitted. And kind of dovetailing into that, the Natalie Creek trail meeting was canceled for tomorrow because we didn't have a lot of updates, and we just don't think it's really productive to meet if we don't have a lot of updates. So I had been going back and forth for months with CNT about having another Rain Ready meeting. And once the Natalie Creek Trail meeting was officially canceled on Monday, I reached out to Anna Wolf, and she said, "I'll get back to you." And later in the day, she did, that she was available. So I sent I prepared an agenda, and I sent an email out to everybody who's on the Rain Ready committee. And we are going to have a Rain Ready steering committee meeting tomorrow at 11, kind of to just check in to see where we are, what we need to do. And again, this was a lot of back and forth with Anna Wolf over the summer after the Stormwater Management Capital Plan was completed, but then we thought we would circle back. And I know everybody's just been incredibly busy, our volunteers. So, and I was working with Anna, again, CNT provided a letter of support for the LTA. So we're going to have a meeting tomorrow, and I'm not sure if we'll meet monthly or quarterly, but we're going to try to stay back on track with our Rain Ready plan.
Well, Trustee Kreis, I was very disappointed to find out about that meeting this afternoon, and I was not included.
Well,
I participated in Rain Ready right from the get-go, even though I was working downtown and was not able to meet every meeting, but I did not receive an invitation or any information with regards to that Rain Ready meeting.
Well, I apologize. I sent it to everybody that the mayor appointed, and that's the list I worked off of, the committee list in May, and that's who it went to.
Did everybody else, did any of the other board members know about the meeting tomorrow so they could possibly attend?
The only one I copied was Trustee Killelea, because Joe Sperry is a co-chair.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that Trustee Ivan participated in Rain Ready before. I don't understand why we were all made of...
The appointments in May, I specifically sent it to everybody who the mayor appointed in May.
Karen,
So anybody,
we've all worked together on that plan for a long,
Okay,
long
well,
time.
it-
And
it
I would have
just-
appreciated if you would have included myself and Carl in that, because I know he worked on it also.
well, if anybody would like to attend, please. It was very last minute when the Natalie Creek meeting was canceled. And it was not, believe you me, it was not intentional. So I worked off of that list, but everybody's more than welcome to participate.
Well, it's kind of hard to participate when we get no notice.
Oh.
So, anyways, moving on.
And I've asked before, and I'll continue to ask, village president should be
Oh,
included in.
I apologize. It was, again, very
You know-
last minute, and my big focus this week was to get that CMAP Local Technical Assistance Grant submitted. So I apologize. Total oversight, I apologize. And
Yes.
that's all I have.
That's all. Trustee Ivan?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Final quote for health insurance renewal for December 2019 has arrived, and the duel between Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare is now on the table. Anybody, I assume everybody's read the information that we provided and looked at the documents and attachments. Does anyone have any questions or a preference for one or the other?
Well,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Stan.
I was just gonna say that, yes, the 17 pages of graph after graph and chart after chart, I did look over. I think it would be helpful for those of us who've never been involved in this process of, deciphering this, to have an overview of maybe the pros and cons and what our health, what our rep thinks is a good deal and why.
Well, on the agenda, we have the written recommendation.
I saw that, but I
What
wasn't.
additional information are you looking for?
Well, it's a lot of information to
Well,
take in.
yes.
And if you're looking for us to ask questions now so we can vote on it next week, I don't know that I'll be ready to vote on it next week, if that's what you're asking for. Because there was a lot here that I couldn't get in 2 days.
Well, Maggie, you want to give them a rundown?
Yes, if I could just say very briefly,
Sure.
it is a lot of pages. What they did was, when they went out for bid, or went out for quote, they went ahead and included a quote for each insurance company, even if it didn't seem as though they were realistic. So if you were to go ahead, the first page, I shouldn't say the first page, page 3 is blue, and they all always show us we have a table here. The left of the table is our current Blue Cross Blue Shield rate. The right of the table is the projected or quoted rate. And that right of that table is the quoted rate for Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal, first draft. They always do this. They always say they came back at 7% increase, we're gonna go back and negotiate. So this first, page 3 is, and every page after that, the left side of the table, you will always see the current Blue Cross Blue Shield. And the right side of that is always gonna be what is quoted. So then if we were to go to page 4,
Can I ask a quick question
Yes.
before we move on?
Yes.
So currently, the village offers 5 plans. They offer an HMO, 3 PPOs, and an HSA.
correct,
And if I understand the HSA correctly, it has a higher deductible, but then a lower premium? And then is the
Doesn't have a lower
HSA,
premium.
is the HSA the plan that allows you to put money aside into that special
It's that
account?
portable plan, yes.
Right, and then you can use that money toward, you put money aside every paycheck, and you can add to it, and you can take it with you, and you use that money to supplement your medical expenses and so forth.
That is correct, and remember, the village gives $1,000 to each HSA participant in January.
Right, that starts the account, okay,
Correct, for their account.
okay.
So those are the 5 plans, and then, excuse me, and then we have 5 plans from Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's just their initial quote. They always show us that, it's the teaser or whatever. So if we were to go to page 4, the same thing again. You see the current Blue Cross Blue Shield on the left, and the right, they finally came down after negotiation back and forth to an increase of, excuse me, only 1.85%. Same plan, we are gonna see an increase. It's fairly negligible, 1.85%. So, we go to page 5, again, Blue Cross Blue Shield, same thing. The only difference is, they are now in the business of selling accidental life insurance, like accidental death and disability, like Aflac. If we were to participate, if we were to get a certain percentage of employees, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, I want to say it's either 10 or 12.
Percent or employees?
I'm sorry?
10 employees or 10% of the employees?
I'm sorry, 10 or 12 employees,
Okay.
it's a certain percentage,
Okay,
which equates to 10 to 12 employees. Then, our increase will be 0.83%, not even 1%, 0.83%, and we would participate in that accidental life, just like Aflac or some of those others you've seen. So that is all Blue Cross Blue Shield.
so when you say an increase of 0.83% or 1.85%, that's the increase in premium? It looks to me, I'm looking at the deductibles, the family deductible, the co-insurance, the out-of-pocket, and it looks like a lot of those terms of the plans have remained the same.
They have, for the most part, they've remained the same, it's just the premiums that have
Okay.
increased.
So they're showing here what the employee premium is, the employee plus spouse, employee plus children and family, what the employee would pay, but,
Not
What
what the
does-
employee would pay, that's the premium.
oh, that's a
that-
premium that
that's
that
the
is
premium
paid,
that's paid.
and then it's the 80/20. Okay,
Absolutely.
got it.
And then the 80/20 falls
Okay.
in on our, so this is what the,
Mhm. Okay,
so that's the first, that's pages 1 through 5, through page 5. And that is Blue Cross Blue Shield, the initial quote, and the final quote of 1.85% increase, and then the quote of 0.83% if we do that accidental life. And we're thinking that we might not get 10 to 12 employees to participate, just because we already have employees on Liberty National, which is like that, and Aflac. Okay, so that's that, just for your perusal. So if you go to page 6, this is Aetna. Again, the first few columns on the left are current Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then the ones on the right are Aetna. And you can see that is a 7.7% increase.
Decrease.
Increase.
Increase.
No, Aetna's a decrease. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. you're right, you're right.
So, you know, they showed it to us, they quoted, they showed it to us, it's probably not, we probably wouldn't necessarily go with that.
And it's not the same coverage.
And some of the plans are different, so that you do have to look at that too. So,
So the items in red are the items that are different, I'm guessing?
you know what, they're in color and I printed mine in black and white.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it's
they're in
right.
color.
So you can look,
Mhm.
but ostensibly, it might not even be of interest to us because, you know, there is an increase. So page 7 is where it gets interesting. Page 7 is United Healthcare. And that is the one, it quoted us a 9.3% decrease, $112,000. And then, remember, they were gonna go back and see if year 2, if they could get some sort of rate lock or something on year 2, so that we didn't see a huge increase in year 2, and then have to go change plans again. So I don't remember what was in my notes, but I think it said they locked in a
7.9%.
Okay, so for year 2, if we were to go with them, we wouldn't see an increase above that for year 2.
So we would decrease
This year,
8%, and then the following year go up.
Maybe.
7.36.
maybe, it might not increase that much, but it won't increase any more than that. And so, there are a couple differences in here, and again, I didn't print mine in color, so you can look, but my notes have, there are some differences in the formulary for prescriptions.
Okay, has there been any consideration for perhaps decreasing the number of plans?
That's my
Not off,
question too.
yeah, not offering so many PPOs? Offering 1 or 2 instead of 3?
That would be something for the board to discuss. They did say that was one of the reasons that, that Cigna declined this year was because we had more plans than they were willing to offer
Offer.
us.
Because how many employees do we have?
We
100?
have-
110?
we have- you know what, I think it says here
It's
somewhere on
88.
here.
There's
88,
81 or
88,
88,
Well, there's 88 that participate.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
yes.
And I think it might skew it this year if we tried to decrease the plans, because we already went out to bid. I mean, I don't know.
You might be right. You might be
I think
right.
it might skew it.
Yeah, but it might be worth a question to our insurance, to the person going out and saying, do you
Jordan,
think that would save
yeah.
us more money? I mean, especially if we don't have people in some of these plans, or a very minimal amount of people.
But then they would have to get rebid, correct?
I would imagine they would.
And I think we're running up against, this goes into effect December 1st, and they need time to make their selections. So the board needs time to decide, you know, if this is going to get rebid, I don't know how long that process would take, and then the board's needs time to decide, are we going to change? Are we going to stay? Are we going to change carriers? So,
And I think we did talk about that last year. It was something that was floated, hey, do we want to have as many plans?
And Maggie, do the non-incumbents offer a discount for the switch? I know Blue Cross Blue
Say
Shield.
that again.
Does the in other words, not Blue Cross Blue Shield, but the other providers offer a discount if you switch from Blue Cross to them, as like Blue Cross does?
I'm thinking that's what this extremely low bid
yes.
from
United
UHC
Healthcare
is probably about. Would you say 7.36% decrease for the first year, but a potential almost 8% increase for the second year?
Got to make up for the shortfall for the first year.
Right.
That's typically the business model that I would employ for that kind of scenario.
I gotta say, overall, I mean, we were projecting 10% increases in health insurance year to year, and Blue Cross Blue Shield has come through again to keep it down to near zero increase. That's pretty good.
but I think the board also needs to seriously consider United Healthcare, because they are a solid company, and when you look at that kind of a decrease,
I think where the rubber has met the road in the past is the network, though. I think
Yes.
that's where most people are gonna make their decision more on the network, and if UHC's network is close to Blue Cross as far as size, and covers the same basic hospitals, I think could be a possibility, but I think in the past, we've floated things like this, and, you know, the network is really where the employees really care about.
That's really something, I totally agree with Don. I ran into this issue years ago with my former employer. They switched from whatever the carrier was to United Healthcare, and the issue was most of the employees from this large company who lived on the south side were really put into a bind because United Healthcare did not have contracts with Advocate. And Advocate, back then, 10 years ago, owned the whole entire south side. If you wanted to go to a doctor within 20 miles of your house, it was gonna be an Advocate doctor. So we were all forced to change doctors for a year or two until they got the situation worked out. So I would agree with Don, if we're gonna heavily consider United Healthcare, we need to look at who their network covers and make sure that the zip code of our 88 employees who participate, make sure that, you know, within a decent range from their home, there are gonna be covered, you know, network providers that they can use.
Probably
Or,
like it.
or they can stay with their current provider and not have to switch doctors because the village changed insurance carriers.
Well, I totally agree with that. The only thing I'm gonna say on the other side of that is nothing stops the current plans from changing who they participate to, so the same problem
That's
could
true.
happen if we stay with this and they decide to drop a carrier or, you know, drop an organization or something, and I've had that happen. Because I've been with the same insurance for many, many years, and I've had to switch doctors because my doctor was no longer in the.
And I
in the
also
program.
had that happen as well.
So I think
That's
that goes
true,
on
too.
both ends. You know, and I guess that's, you know, when I looked at this, and then when I looked at the second, I see that they say for United Healthcare, they're saying that they would, for the second year, give us a cap of 7.9%, correct?
A cap, and it might not be that high, but they would give us a cap. They won't go above that.
But it's possible that Blue Cross Blue Shield next year wouldn't have an increase that high either, so we don't know.
Right.
It's a gamble.
Right.
But there is language in all the union contracts that say we are supposed to offer similar.
Right.
And we start
Comparable.
changing, comparable, if you start changing networks
Right.
and doctors and stuff,
Yes.
it could be argued, I guess, that that is not comparable. I don't know.
But do we know that?
We don't know that.
Do we know?
Well, we'd have to vet it. We'd have to try to, you know, look closer at the UHC network and see if it's close to comparable and see if it's worth working on it or not.
It's like the big thing, it still would be, is Advocate in there, because Advocate has got.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
The Advocate has really got the market
Right.
on the south side.
When do we need to approve this, Treasurer?
We have a renewal of December 1st. They'd like to have it approved by mid-November so that we can have insurance meetings. That's what we hold.
Can we take 2 weeks to determine if UHC network is,
We can, what I was planning to do tomorrow, then after your comments, was to get a list of providers in the UHC network, maybe within 20 and 40 miles here, and certainly a list of hospitals then. And then if, I'm trying to think, you know, if we're gonna change, we wanna have it approved more quickly than if we're staying the same, because if we're changing, then there is more of a scramble to get, you know, to get everybody enrolled, we have to do complete enrollment, then et cetera.
I think
And then
it-
everybody will have to pick their own doctors again. Hopefully they're in there. If not, they'll have to pick a compatible doctor. I mean, we've had how many years of success have we had with Blue Cross Blue Shield, would you say? How long have we had that now?
I don't know, since I've been here, how long? has it
So,
Forever.
it's been like forever, so everybody's pretty much, you know, our employee base is pretty much used to using Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
I think I'd like to see the plan too, because I believe United Healthcare is a little more on pre-approval or some more procedures or tests than Blue Cross is.
Well, and you did see that formulary for Blue Cross, for United Healthcare, they did say they have step pharmaceutical approval, so you can't automatically get a name brand, you have
Well, that's the same way as Blue
It's
Cross,
Blue
that's
Cross
the way
Blue
Blue
Shield,
Cross
too.
does that too.
Yep.
But I mean, as
And you
far,
get the
I haven't
generic.
encountered that, but I mean, so, you know, they wanted to, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't think necessarily has that all the time, because that's one of the differences that they pointed out. And I think I put it in my note,
yeah.
that one of the things that they pointed out, that it is very step-driven in terms of pharmacy approval.
Yeah.
So I look at, would it help at all if we were to, you know, if I could have Mike Wojcik or Rebecca, somebody at least, if they can't come to a meeting, because they're scrambling too, at least write maybe
Yeah.
something a little bit
That's
more.
what, yeah, that's what I was talking about in the beginning. If we could just have, you know, like a cheat sheet. These are the pros and cons of switching, these are the, you know, pros and cons of staying, and, you know, these are the differences. I don't even need to know all their lists, just the differences. They're, you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield has 100 providers, the other one has 98, the difference is these two aren't in it, or whatever. Just so we have an idea, because, you know, if everything is equal, and I saw in the notes that you had typed that, you know, some people might not like the change with prescription, but it might benefit other people.
Others, yes,
So
absolutely.
I did see that, and I, you know, I was kind of hoping that they would provide something to us that would kind of make it a, you know,
Well, I
dummy
don't think,
proof for me.
the problem is that they, because of privacy issues, they can't really, I don't know how deep they can go.
I don't want to know I don't want to know which people.
People's names, but I
Well,
don't.
I don't even want to know their medicines or anything. I just want to know
But they'd
the,
have to look at the individual people to find out what doctors they're using, to see if that doctor is then on the other network.
well, no.
So if
could
they have
just-
specialists
no,
or
they could
something of
just-
that nature,
They could
That-
just, I just want to know, if you provide an advocate network, you're any advocate doctors in there. I mean, that's,
so
The
just.
problem is Advocate has many, many, many networks.
Yes.
A lot. There's so many layers to the Advocate network.
so,
So,
I mean, I'd
So
like to
something
just
like at
see
the
that.
3,000-foot level kind of thing, and that drilled down to an immense detail, then it's okay?
I want one page, easy to read, no, you know, just bullet points.
So something at the
doesn't have to be
5,000-foot level,
complete- Complete sentences. Just so that we want to make sure we're doing what's best for, you know, the employees and the village, you know, I mean, it's terrible to have to be in the middle of switching, but if there's plans out there that are better or more conducive to what our employees want, then I want to know that too.
Right, and there is a savings, at least this first year, you know.
And that's not just for the village, that's for the employees as well.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, and so then I won't go on any further, but the rest of these have to do with life insurance, vision, and guardian, and they really are pretty self-explanatory. So why don't I just go ahead and make sure that I speak with Horton tomorrow? Oh, excuse me, did you?
Oh,
Yeah.
if you're done talking
Yeah,
about the medical insurance, I just want to ask a question about the ambulance.
Sure.
Oh, okay, so that would be on page 9. Is it possible, on the renewal side, it looked like they were raising the threshold of coverage. Is it possible to do a renewal of what our current coverage is so that to keep our costs down? So we don't have a 4.2% increase?
You know what, let me ask them.
Well, Mayor, you sounded like you were going to say something earlier about the plans, or
And
did you have a preference?
Can I just ask one more question?
No.
I'm sorry.
No, you can't. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, you can.
actually, I'm talking right now, so.
burn stuff.
And I was turning it over to the mayor at this point in time.
Well, I know, but I got one more question about ambulance.
After
when you're
that,
done.
after I'm done, sure.
The only thing I was gonna say is what I said, is I'm pretty impressed that Blue Cross Blue Shield has once again come in at a marginal, you know, very tiny increase, and we had projected over the years that we're gonna be looking at 10% increases, so that's pretty good. It's not gonna affect the employees in any way, but we should certainly do the due diligence and our fiduciary responsibility by looking into the options to the United Healthcare.
All right, now I'm willing to turn it over.
Thank you. Sorry about that. On Amwins, so I'm confused. At the bottom, it says monthly medical rate, monthly RX rate, then monthly premium rate. What's,
So the premium rate is the combination of the
Oh.
medical rate, they just dropped them. They just-
got it, okay. All right.
So did-
Do any of does the village cover this 100% for the retirees? The retirees have,
It's still 80%.
it is 80/20 for the retirees? Okay. Is there any way, I see here that the co-pays for all the prescriptions are the same. Do they have different levels of co-pay that we could consider?
I can ask, are you thinking about asking if they could change it?
Possibly. I mean, or I wasn't sure with Amwins if this was all they offered, or if they offered different levels of
Sure.
co-pays. And that's all I had.
All right then, my second thing I want to bring up is beautification committee meeting tomorrow, I believe, at 7:15. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, we're going to talk about wonderful things like flower boxes and how to make Midlothian look prettier.
For
So,
Christmas.
at the Historical Society. So at 7:15. Yes, ma'am, how can I help you?
Is there any, I did notice that some of the flowers are starting to wilt because it's getting so cold. Was there any plans on, to take out some of the, wilted some of the
That's what we're
flowers
going to
and
be
put-
discussing tomorrow's meeting. If you want to join us?
Well, Jean mentioned Christmas, so I just was wondering what we're doing about the fall. That's all.
Slow down. Slow down.
I'm just asking.
The fountain's still going at the CBOE building, all right? It's not fall yet, or winter.
And my summer flowers are
Regardless
so
of the-
beautifully in bloom in my little pot in the front of my house, so
Yeah.
they'll stay there for a while.
Outside
regardless
this
of
af- Outside this afternoon at the rain garden, it was not telling me that it was still nice, that it's fall.
We sent out letters to everyone who adopted the boxes, the businesses, asking for donations to our next season. So we're waiting to hear from them. And we'll have a meeting and discuss it tomorrow.
Very good.
All right, well then I would like to finish my business. I am done.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Gillis, Jesus.
Yes, Mayor,
Trustee Gillis.
not that I want to bring in the fire chief's right next week, but I just want to mention that the pancake breakfast seemed like it was well appreciated by the attendants, and the food was pretty darn good too.
Thank you.
Outside of that, Mrs. Bartecki sort of stole my thunder when she mentioned the TV, because I just assumed that was something the safety committee meeting brought in. Finding out the street or something, I wanted to make it a safe street by bringing it into the Historical Society. So it was quite interesting to find it there. And lastly, I wanted to find out if, for the open house, if we had any thoughts about asking our volunteers to open the Historical Society for that day also. I know that we're open on the 1st and 3rd, so I could ask them if they would want to volunteer and come in on that Saturday, but I don't know if that's something you'd like to have done there or...
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Then I will check with them to see if we can have a couple of them there for that Saturday for the time. And outside of that, Trustee Ivan, I do have some pictures to share with you.
Thank you.
You know, if you give me an idea how many you're looking to put up, and if you want to stick with the black frames that were there, I believe I have an abundance of frames at my house that I could loan if you're going to use the pictures temporarily.
And that's exactly what I want to do, sir.
Okay, then you tell me how many pictures you want, and I can supply you with some frames to use
Okay,
in the short term.
thank you.
And you're welcome, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Cavney?
Thank you, Mayor. First item on my agenda is to discuss to hire the temporary part-time file clerk for the building department. I had brought this up before and wanted to just get the board's weigh-in on this. I talked to Superintendent Weinert, and he would prefer to hire a college-age student or adult for this position. And again, it's going to be temporary for 6 to 8 months, 10 to 12 hours a week. We were looking for to pay an hourly salary of about $10 an hour, maybe 10 to 12, not sure.
It's-
So do we need to do a job description and put it on the website? Can we, because this is temporary, I don't know how the
One
village
quick
does
question though,
this.
is this to load the information onto your new software, or
Just file.
No, this
Manual
is
filing.
this is just to
manual,
play catch-up with the filing?
play catch-up with filing.
Wow. I don't have the answer for the, whether or not we have to post this for part-time work of that nature or not.
Do we have to? Does anybody know?
We
'Cause
probably
could we
should
could-
have a job description, right? I mean, we kind of need to, it'll be pretty basic.
Yeah, but I mean, because of the nature of the job, I'm asking, I don't know if the village has ever hired anybody on a temporary basis before. Do we need to post this on?
This board has not, so I don't know
Okay.
how we,
Well, how about prior boards? You guys were all
Did
on
we-
prior boards.
Do we do it for Public Works when they
Except
cut the
for
lawn and
Sandy.
stuff like that, the high school kids?
Pardon me?
if it's been a long time.
remember any.
Oh, that's been probably, what,
When the ordinance
25 years.
was in effect.
So, you'll be breaking new ground.
Okay, so I'm asking the board for their agreement.
Job
if-
description.
I'll get a job description, but I'm asking the board if they would be in agreement that we don't have to, I don't want to post this on the website and have like 300 people apply for this job. You know what I mean? If we know if any of us know some people in the community who we know might want a temporary job for 6 months, I would be happy with going at it that way.
I don't know if there's 300 people looking for a job.
I have no idea, you never know.
I mean, my suggestion, I think you hit it on the head with either a high school student, but the problem with a high school student, remember, you're going to, or a college student, is they're at school or work during the day. So, their availability would be more evenings or weekends, which,
Well, sometimes with college kids, they
My-
might have an afternoon
my
off, so they could do
thought-
it 2 afternoons a week.
my thought might be though, we are always looking for new opportunities for our seniors. So I know there's a couple seniors that are eager to do things in the community. Maybe we could reach out and,
That would be lovely. I would welcome that. That would be fine. That would be fine also. I just want to get everyone's consensus. I don't want to do a job description and, all of a sudden, hey, guess what? We've got somebody without, first running this by the board first and see what you think. If we've never hired a temporary person before, I mean, like I said, it's just going to be,
Keep in mind, this isn't a new expense. This is a savings that Superintendent Weyer has found and is using that as.
that is correct.
It's not a new expense to the
Right.
board, to the village.
Do we have anybody on light duty?
Oh, that's a good idea, but I wouldn't know that.
Not that we know of, no. Good point. So, job description,
Job description, we'll get it. Thank you.
and this is just gonna be the backload. The building department will keep up with everything that they currently have.
Currently, what they were instructed to do right now is keep up with their current daily filing on a daily basis. So this is just to help with the backload.
Stuff that's old, okay.
Do you got any idea on the size of the backload? I mean, is
I
it
don't-
humongous?
I don't know.
Years.
Years?
At least back to 2016 that I'm aware of.
No, even more than that. 'Cause
Really?
they used to file things, just by.
By
the
date.
year, not-
Right, and this is not due to any inefficiencies of the current staff, but prior to the current staff, they were not using house folders. They're using house folders now, so it's much easier to locate information on a particular address if there's a FOIA request or whatever. Anybody needs to look anything up. Prior to the implementation of using house folders, which was implemented by Gwen a couple years ago, well, before I joined the board, they were filing everything by date in binders. So it makes it very difficult if we get a FOIA request on a property, not only do we have to look in the house folder, but then you guys have to go through all those binders as well, right?
So this person would take everything out of the binders and put it in the house
Right,
folder?
they're
By
gonna
house.
help get caught up with items that
address.
haven't been, by address. Everything's gonna be now filed by address.
So we're basically taking the old system and converting it to a new system that's like
Yes.
4 years old?
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
correct.
seems reasonable.
Now, just out of curiosity, being the technical person that I am,
What are you laughing about?
Because she's making fun of me because I'm not technical.
we've always,
See how I knew that about her? See?
We have talked in the past about going more paperless.
And that's
So-
exactly what the plan is gonna be.
So my thought is, while we're having someone file all this, is it worth it to scan it into something to make those documents available? Because God forbid, let's say, God forbid we have the
Right.
roof cave in from water, that
Right.
certainly wouldn't
Right.
happen.
Never happen.
Yeah.
You know, now, if we're gonna hire someone to do it, it might be worth the extra hour to have it scanned and have those documents on some sort of, you know, we're gonna have some
Going-
extra servers, we're
Going
gonna have.
forward, right, exactly. Going forward, once the new building department software is employed and in place, most everything will then be digital. We can keep track digitally of our, you know, just about all the building records. You know, most of the building records are permits. They're all, it's mostly permit driven and all the documentation that goes with the permits. I would think the only thing you couldn't scan is if somebody brought in, you know, their big 20 by
Right.
20 survey.
My thought is
So-
though, like, we could, I mean, just a homemade, if we, you know, like I said, we're going to our virtual server, so we will have an extra, you know, extra servers. It might be worth it to store, and I don't even know if that's the proper, I'm not even looking
No,
at trustee
super-
Ivan, because
no,
I'm
yeah.
sure his eyebrows are raising.
Superintendent Weiner did bring that up also. He brought up, you know, one of the first things he said to me a year ago when he started was, have you ever thought of hiring a company to come in and scan all this and get it digitized so we can get rid of the file cabinets?
I mean, we could do something as simple as create a folder with each address and just scan the documents we're putting in there and save it into the folder.
Right.
I mean, you know, if we have the extra space and we have someplace we could do that, I don't know why we wouldn't want to do that.
Well, we would, but then that would make the project be a little bit more entailed and a little bit longer, because now you're scanning the backlog of paper that was gonna go in the house folder, but then at some point, we still have to scan what's in the folder. So,
And then we would need someone that's a little bit more tech savvy, I would think. as-
right, and somebody who would, really someone who would be experienced in that type of a project, because they need to understand the process flow and making sure that when you're scanning documents, they do all go into the correct,
Because we don't want the documents to be,
right, that
Not
they,
show up.
that they understand how to, the nomenclature of naming the house folder online.
So
What?
this project can't wait till, I'm just thinking just what you just said, it's definitely something for somebody more computer savvy.
We need to get caught up right now with filing. Once we get caught up with filing, then I'm gonna come back to you
Okay.
with the project of spending a little bit more money to have somebody come in and digitize all this. And if we can find someone in the community who's got some experience, who would like to come in and work on a temporary basis and do that for us, that would be fabulous. But if not, then we would have to go to an outside company and have them do it, which will be a little bit pricey.
Just to add, you guys are both correct. Digitalizing is a good way to move forward in it. Something me and the clerk have talked about for the last, I don't know, 3-4 years now, to move all our documents into a digitalized format. The problem with going to digitalized format and your software is, does your software accept digitalized format? That would be the question that
Right.
for
We would
later,
have to
you
answer
have
that.
to figure that out.
Yes.
But manually putting everything together in one file folder is the most economical, labor intensive, no? Makes it easier
Right. Yes, it does make it
to move
easier.
forward
Yes.
to digitalization by putting it all together in one location.
Absolutely, that's.
So I'm 100% behind getting a clerk to
What
take care of
about
that.
looking at a document management software, which you're jumping?
Again, she has software, you have to find out if it's integrated,
Right. See, the
because
problem
otherwise
is
it's
that-
useless to have it managed.
Finding what you're digitizing is always the biggest problem.
Right, exactly. And the thing of it is that in the building department, we keep track of everything by address. In the police department, they may not. They might keep track of all their records by their citation number, you know, not by address. And I'm not sure how, I would assume maybe Public Works in their new software, they keep track of everything by address as well?
I thought they were
Not
pin-driven for some reason.
They're what driven?
Pin?
Oh, pin driven,
Most of
okay.
it's not, most of the stuff in the police department's all done through the CAD record management system, so it's all searchable through.
Right. And to Don's point, if we were gonna get some kind of document management system, we would have to make sure that that system, if it exists, can communicate with all the different various systems that are employed throughout the village.
Correct.
So,
Well, I don't think fire and police would fall under that. I think it would just be public works and building and finance, because they wouldn't be able to communicate with firehouse or with
Right.
the CAD record management
Right.
system.
so,
I don't understand what's so hard about all this, because Alan can find a photo on his phone out of 20,000 from 8 years ago in 3 seconds.
In a matter of seconds.
I don't
It's
know.
really amazing.
And why do you think I was working with Alan
It's all
on
about
document?
filing.
Alan is considerably younger than the rest of us. Does that have anything to do with it?
Probably.
And computer science.
Yes, and a little bit more computer savvy.
But I get it, it has to, everything has to be integrated, and
Right.
I don't get it, I shouldn't say that, I don't get it, but.
We'll have to put it in a cloud.
Is it in the cloud or on the cloud?
Well, technically, it'll be in the cloud because it'll be in your file cabinet.
Okay.
All right, so, job description,
Job description, you'll get it hopefully before next meeting, or before the next meeting. Okay, next item? Okay, after,
My computer went to sleep. My computer went to sleep.
that's because this conversation is so riveting. Next item on my agenda is to discuss and possibly approve the final version of the revised stormwater and floodplain management ordinance. So, there was lots of back and forth with Marilyn over the last 4 or 5 days, and just when we thought we had the final document nailed down, she would send us a draft back with like 3 changes or something. So that's exactly what happened on Monday. We sent her our final document to review on Monday. She sent it back on Tuesday with 2 or 3 little minor corrections, which did get made, and so I believe that the documents that are on this agenda right now is the final document that she sent to us on Tuesday. Yes, and it's in final format and red line format. I'm sure you're really interested in the changes that were made. There were a couple of C's missing out of some map numbers, essentially, is what it boiled down to. But
It was riveting. It was riveting.
Was it riveting? Glad you enjoyed it.
I did.
So, my question to the board is, if nobody has any objection, can we move forward this evening to approve this, or would you prefer that we put this on the consent agenda for next week?
I'd like to approve it and get it
my,
over with.
my druthers would be that we just go ahead and approve it if everyone's okay with it, because you don't know what's gonna happen next week, and it has to be approved
By
by
the end
next
of the
week,
month.
or, well,
By
by the end of the
November
month.
1.
So, if it's good, we should just approve it.
Okay,
I'm
then.
good with it.
If there are no objections, I would like to make the motion that the board approve this final version of the revised stormwater and floodplain management ordinance that is on the agenda this evening.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee King,
Aye.
Trustee Ivan,
Aye.
Trustee Crowley,
Aye.
Trustee Gillis,
Aye.
Trustee Killily,
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you, board.
Good deal. Everyone keep their flood insurance.
Yeah. Next item, it's not listed on the agenda, but I want to remind everybody that we've had a couple of meetings where I brought up the zoning matters that the board needs to address, and the only 2 trustees that have given me any input so far have been Trustee Ivan and Trustee Kreis. So I would appreciate hearing from the others and the mayor
I
if you
spoke
guys.
to Superintendent Weiner directly.
Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. So if you guys have any, opinions, questions, comments, if you could get those to Superintendent Weiner as quickly as possible, we'd like to get moving. And he's already had Karina kind of get the ball rolling, and she's starting to gather addresses for those certain residential triangles that we had talked about, so that we can get that process rolling along.
And can I state that this is a major undertaking, as it was, I'm sure Trustee Kelly and Trustee Kreis remember when they did that rezoning in '06, '09?
It's a while ago.
It's a major undertaking, and we're not doing one fell swoop. We're trying to correct the areas that we think, or we presume we think needs to be corrected, so.
Right.
Actually, it was Trustee Stevens that did
Yep.
the last rezone.
He led the charge on that.
Was he trustee then, or mayor?
Trustee.
Trustee. Next item, transfer stamps. So Superintendent Weiner has expressed to me a couple times that there seems to be process of transfer stamps still seems to be a little bit burdensome, and not just on the building department. He recognizes that it's burdensome on all the departments affected. And keep in mind, transfer stamps do affect every single department in the village, because when a transfer stamp request comes in, it needs to go to every department. And even though Public Works and Police and Fire may say we don't have anything, the transfer stamp request still needs to go to those departments in case they do have something. There could be, on the police department side, there could be an outstanding parking tickets. On the fire department side, they could have outstanding ambulance bills or whatever. And since the Illinois state law has now changed, whereby municipalities have the right to charge residents who live in unincorporated areas of the municipality and don't pay taxes to the municipality but use the fire department services, our municipality is entitled to collect fees from those residents. So those might be outstanding. And then, on the public works side, somebody might have an outstanding, street repair or curb repair or sidewalk repair or something. I'm not sure. So at any rate, he has mentioned to me that a couple of times that, especially during busier periods of the year, because, as you know, all of the work that hits the front window and gets disseminated is all pretty cyclical. He said there have been times sometimes where, a transfer stamp request might hit their desk, and it's due the next day. And then now the building department doesn't really have enough time to really research without dropping everything they're doing and getting to that. So.
I thought it says that it has to be due a week in advance. You have to do, or
14 days.
The ordinance says 14 business days. However, I believe what has been happening is, and it was advertised in the newsletter that it was 1 week. And
Yeah,
sometimes.
I know I saw a week somewhere.
One week is not long enough, because the problem is that it's a piece of paper that travels from desk to desk to desk to desk. So if you're the last guy that gets it, you're getting it on day 4 or 5, and it's due day 5. So,
doesn't it seem like there should be an easier way to do it?
well, that's why I'm bringing this up.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, wouldn't it
With
make-
the technology, we
I
can email it to all
had, okay,
departments at
well,
the same
hold
time.
on, okay, don't steal my thunder.
All the departments at the same time.
Huh?
It is sent to all the departments at the same time.
Okay, well, I was not aware of that. Is it being
It is.
emailed right now? It's not a piece of paper that's traveling from desk to desk?
I believe it's email.
It's transfer stamps, not FOIA.
I'm talking about transfer stamps.
I know,
Okay.
I understand.
According to the conversation I had with Nick, it's not getting emailed, it's the transfer stamp application paper is making the rounds. So I had a conversation with trustee Killily about it, I had a conversation with Alan about it, and my idea was that,
Well, Dan, how do you get it?
We designated a person to receive it,
But is it a physical paper that gets it?
email, and there's a group.
It is an email?
Nancy and ours, but I'm CC'd on it usually.
Yeah.
Used to do it.
It would make sense, just scan the document
Right.
and then email it to
well,
everybody.
that was gonna be my recommendation, is that it gets scanned and emailed, but that was not my understanding of that's how the process was working. My understanding was that it was a piece of paper that was coming to the building department, not an email.
Well, the request is coming in the form of a form, right? They actually have a
Okay,
form
and
for it?
then what I used to do is I used to create an email and say, I need to know if there's any outstanding violations, fees, anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can obtain a transfer.
And that's what's still happening today.
Yes.
And how many of them are
And I
coming?
taught her how to do it.
Hmm?
I taught her how to do it.
But if the document is coming in via email, are you getting the email and then are you disseminating the email to all the departments?
No,
Or is it going to,
Now it goes directly to Michelle.
so Michelle gets it and
So
does
we've
Michelle
got
send,
everyone
wait, does
on the
Michelle
same
send an
thing.
email out to everybody?
Yes, yes.
So the form comes into the front desk, someone takes the form physically, scans it, and then sends an email to all the departments?
Yes.
Or whoever's this person.
And what's the time frame for response? That,
Well, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy, like you can put 2 weeks down to have somebody, they need to respond by then, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes we don't get them until a week before the closing.
And this is also the problem, not only just trying to tighten up our internal process, And I mean, and Nick has even acknowledged that sometimes Michelle gets very overburdened with these, depending on the time of year and what's going on. You know, she might get slammed with a whole lot of these and it's very overwhelming. So,
I would just say that
Oh.
although the ordinance says 14 days,
mhm.
as far as the real estate bar goes and the real estate actors, that would be impractical. And 90% of.
Why would it be impractical?
It's impractical because
14 business days is 3 weeks.
buyers and
I would say-
sellers sometimes don't know that they're gonna close
Right.
until 48 hours before they
Right.
do.
And they're waiting for
Right, but if
their
you have a contract on the house, that's when you should be doing it.
But sometimes they don't close,
You
sometimes.
gotta
they're-
wait till you get your final on your water bill.
Right,
It's been recommended to me by the employees that are handling this to leave it at 7 days, to change the ordinance to 7 days.
And
Well, I
7
thought it
days,
was
and
7
seven, no, it's not, it's 14 business days, which is essentially 3 weeks.
The ordinance says 14 business days.
It says 14 business days,
Which,
huh?
according to the employees.
It's unrealistic.
I'm
They
not
have to-
disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that we have to come up with a plan that's more reasonable, but also, we have folks that walk in the door the day of or 2 days before,
That's
and
what
then what happens is, everyone's gotta drop what they're doing and deal with that.
But here's the thing that I don't understand. I see what everybody's saying, but I don't understand why, I understand that we can't give them their final water bill until a couple days before, correct? However many days it is.
Yeah,
But why can't we request that we get the form in advance? Like,
That's
that's
exactly
not,
it.
there's no,
They're
there's no
supposed to.
We don't
correlation.
even realize that our town is requesting for a
But
transfer.
that's on the
But
real
that's
estate
the
and the
fault
mortgage
of the real
companies to
estate,
know
the
that.
mortgage company, and the title company, because all
Yeah,
title
they're the
companies
ones
know
that
it.
have it.
Yeah,
See, hold on, all title companies know it.
Right.
The title companies are the individuals or the entities that are supposed to making sure that they let their buyers, sellers, and attorneys know.
Right.
And most of the real estate companies know it.
I looked up online, and there's a database of about 10 pages of all the towns
That
that
require-
ask for transfer stamps, how soon and how you apply, either
How you apply,
online
is there fees?
or
Yes.
in person.
Exactly.
So a
And-
lot of them are quicker
and so
than
they
we are,
can-
but
And so we don't charge for the transfer stamp, so they're not losing anything if they don't
No.
close. If they if they give it to us when they when they get the contract, or even 2 or 3 weeks before the projected closing, as long as we tell them we'll give it back to them by 3 or 4 days before, that should be
Yeah.
fine.
well, but they don't know they're
They
closing.
don't know they're
until-
closing.
They don't know
The
the
issue-
closing
They don't know
date.
they're
In modern
closing
real
till-
estate closings, you can have the parties all involved finally get to the point where they're gonna close literally 48 hours.
Right.
In addition to
Especially-
that-
Especially at the end of the month, because everyone wants to close on the last day of the month, because they don't want to pay a month's worth of interest.
And you also get parties that 3 weeks out think they're gonna close and never
Then
do.
they don't.
And now you've issued a transfer stamp to someone who's not moving.
But it's only for a specific date. I mean, it's not, we're not gonna give it to them before the week of.
And are transfer stamps only good for a certain amount of time and then they expire?
Yes.
To your point,
Yes.
Yeah.
to your point, then, you know, if you don't
Right.
close, then you gotta get another one. And the purpose, what I understand, because of course this was done before Caveney and Crowley, the purpose of the village instituting the transfer stamp was because we had a lot of people who were selling and moving and not paying their final water bills or paying their citations and leaving town with all kinds of unpaid bills. So that was the purpose of the village
You're
instituting the
correct. Midlothian is
transfer stamp.
unique in that it requires a transfer stamp, but there's no charge for it.
Right.
90% of municipalities that require transfer stamps do so because they're charging you. They have a real estate transfer, municipal real estate transfer stamp.
Right.
Midlothian is, matter of fact, pretty much the only one that I know of. It's very unique. It makes you go through the process and issue a stamp, but
See-
doesn't charge you for it.
See, I personally, from the resident standpoint, I think we're looking at it the wrong way. If I'm a resident and I owe, I'm just gonna use the water bill, and I owe $500 on my back water bill, I don't wanna know 48 hours before. I'd like 2 weeks to be able to settle up with the village so it doesn't postpone my closing.
Well, if you're a responsible seller, you're
Right.
doing
True.
that already on your own.
Exactly.
True.
Yeah.
My point is, if something, if they have
Just
something.
like you're calling ComEd and
If-
everybody else.
If they have something though, I mean, if there is something that they have to clear up, I'd rather know about it in advance.
Typically, what municipalities do, the transfer stamp in most municipalities is a separate requirement from water and everything else. We need you to pay this fee, and in addition to that, you need to go to the water department and get a statement saying that you've paid your water bill. Midlothian is unique in that we don't charge a separate fee. in other municipalities, there's no transfer stamp. There's simply, you go and pay, get proof that you've paid the water bill and any other debts that you owe the village. That's not a transfer stamp that goes in the back of the stamp, on the back of the deed that goes to the recorder of deeds. It's merely, you can't close until you have paid your water bill.
It's just a device to make sure we get our money. That's what it is.
Whether it's water, whether it's police citations, whether it's somebody rented a cage from Public Works and didn't return it, an animal cage.
So,
Do we have a log for these like we do the FOIAs, so we know when they're coming? Like,
I'm sure, I think Michelle.
is there a date stamp or a time stamp?
I'm sure she created some kind of law.
And Maria, do you
Is it a paper?
recall,
Oh, sorry, go
just,
ahead.
just from a volume perspective, I'm sure it's cyclical, but just on average, do you know how many we would get in a week?
When the season is really,
During the summer?
Yeah, then you can get, sometimes you can get 15 of them in a day.
Wow.
And there's other times you get like, you know, it could be 5 in a week during the winter time. You can get a lot of them.
But it is cyclical.
So if someone comes in the front door and they turn in a paper application to Michelle, she scans it and emails that paper application to everybody?
Email, I don't know that you have to exactly scan the form in, because it's the consent form, but she sends an email to everyone saying, can you check your files to see if you have any open
For transfer stamp. And then do you know, is her log, is she keeping a paper log, or does she have it, or does she have it online? Is there like a, in the shared drive, is there a?
They scan them, into a database.
So the final transfer stamp document, would that every department fills out?
Because they have to provide a deed, a copy of the deed,
Mm-hmm.
showing, they have a signed one, but they have to send us a deed also, so all of that.
And the deed is what gets stamped, right?
No, there's a little stamp that we provide them.
Which
Oh, like a
allows
paper
them,
stamp?
which allows them to record it at the recorder of deeds. And the way that's our ability to compel them to comply with all the debts they owe us is because that the new owner theoretically is not supposed to be able to record that deed without the Midlothian transfer stamp.
Which is looks like a mailing stamp, a piece of paper
Right.
stamp.
Now, again, I want to emphasize, what's unique about Midlothian is that there's no cost for that stamp. Most municipalities, you have to pay for the stamp.
okay, we heard you.
Okay, well, just to let you know that that's the difference.
And I will
Heard
admit,
you.
we have talked about doing a service charge for rush orders.
Right, because
Especially like
sometimes
24 hours or something
we
like
have people coming in a day before, oh, I've got a deadline, I need my transfer stamp. And that they're not even paying attention to the fact that they need to bring us the application 5 days in advance.
So do we need to
Say
change
no.
the ordinance, and/or do we need to implement some type of rush fee for things that fall
I
within the
think both.
7 day, less
We
than the
leave
7
it,
day turnaround?
if the board wants to leave it 5 business days, that's fine, or 7 business days, that's fine. And if you come in 48 hours beforehand and you want your transfer stamp, then you pay a rush fee.
But I don't know if we can do that.
Why not?
Administrative fee, can we do an
Yeah,
administrative
yes, we
fee?
can.
Pardon me?
Can we do an administrative fee?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because
Yeah.
we just tried a referendum a couple times to have a charge associated with the transfer
But it's not a
stamp.
transfer
It's
stamp.
not a
It's just
transfer
like getting
stamp
your
fee.
passport. You pay $100 for your passport. If you need it in less than the 3 weeks it takes, you pay another $50.
Right, exactly. I'm not talking about, Donna, we're not talking about charging like $50
It's
per
not transfer-
100 or $100
transfer fee.
per 1,000, how other communities charge for transfer stamps.
Well, I
We're
think,
talking about, a $50 fee or a $75 fee for making everyone
If
drop what
everyone-
they're
yeah.
doing.
If you have to have it in
And
48
rush
hours
around,
instead of the
exactly.
5 days or 7 days or wherever we land.
Right.
Well, so I have no problem either way. My concern is that when we rush, haste makes waste. Dan just said he's got Nancy doing this in his department. What if she's off? What if she's off for a day or off for a couple days? Then somebody else has to look through, I mean, not that someone
Right.
else can't do it, but it's not the regular course of business.
Right.
And to me, that always leaves room for error.
Why don't we just say no?
Well, that would be what I
Well,
would say.
because the
but-
problem, if we say no,
But nobody ever listens
if
to
we
me when I
say
say no
no,
anymore.
then people
so-
can't close on the sale of
That's
their
right.
house.
And in addition to that, then you get a bigger gap between when you've done all that work and when the closing actually occurs. You don't want to go through all this process. 1 out of 10 closings never close. So that means you're running everyone around, you're getting all these, give it to this buyer, and then they don't close. And so then you toss it away.
There's a
Start over.
difference though between getting it a week in advance and getting it 24 hours in
Right.
advance.
Now-
I mean, now, maybe we could help that process and make the forms available online.
It
Yeah,
is.
They
it's all
can-
online.
Yeah.
And they can email them to us?
They can, that's all
Yep.
online.
It
Okay,
already
so,
is.
so, you know, if we're doing all of that and we have people still waiting 24 hours in advance, I mean,
Maria doesn't want to tell anyone no.
okay, Maria, you can give him Gary's number and he'll tell him no.
You can get my number and I'll tell them no.
I'll help with telling no, Jeff.
Why couldn't we just, I don't know if this helps, but the charge, well,
Yeah.
I know we had to go to a referendum to,
For the
For
transfer
transfer
stamp,
fee.
which is
Tax,
based on
tax.
on the
For the
value of the
tax.
property.
right,
Right.
That was voted down.
oh, yeah.
Right,
Now,
well,
I
this
think-
is not on the value of the
I
property.
think
No, I'm-
also pays an administrative fee.
Oh, no, there's $2.50 per $1,000.
Oh, it's because there was a regular transfer
Transfer
tax.
tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
We
is
don't
not
have
a
That has to be
transfer
by
tax.
referendum.
See,
Well, we don't have to go to
I don't know if we
referendum.
can attach any charge to the transfer. I don't know, we need a legal opinion on that.
Can we
That
charge
is a good
administrative
question
fee?
you posed, and I've thought of that also. My guess is, and I can research this, but I'm pretty certain that a
Processing.
rush
processing
fee is certainly legal, because you can avoid it.
Like a late fee.
Right.
Right, exactly. It's not a tax, it's a fee to expedite. And that, I would say, is pretty much 90% certain that that would be legal, provided that it's not substantial, that it actually reflects the cost to the municipality to rush.
It has nothing to do with the sale price of the property or anything like that.
Exactly
No,
right.
exactly.
And it's not a tax.
And we also have to recognize the fact that, to Gary's point and Nick's point, is that sometimes people don't know that they're gonna close until 2 days beforehand. You know, so, and I've seen that happen before.
I haven't closed in almost 30 years, so I don't know, but he's saying that the modern closing practice now is that you could be,
It's now you can get a contract on the first of the month, and you may have to close on the 15th.
That's true.
used to be 90 days or something, 60 days or.
Yes, used to be a long time. But also, again, because you have people who, you know, you get to the end of the month and you're waiting for your mortgage to get approved, and all of a sudden.
Absolutely right.
You know, the underwriter finally comes through after that last piece of information you gave them, and they say, okay, you're clear to close.
Tomorrow.
Boom, in 2 days, we want to close. Well, you know, the seller's been holding off on going to get that transfer stamp when, in essence, they should have applied for it. To Sandy's point, they should have brought the application in, but they didn't.
But the rush fee or the administrative fee, what do you want to call it? First, we're going to look into that and see if that's legal.
Yeah.
But it has to be a certain amount that eventually people will stop doing that, you know?
Right.
It deters
It's
people.
a deterrent.
It's unrealistic, I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
not gonna work.
What's not gonna work?
You think we should still charge a fee, though?
No, well,
Someone comes in the last day, 24 hours, and you don't think we should ask them to pay us something?
Well,
I think it happens, and sometimes it's not their fault.
But the reality is, if we don't, I understand things happen. And things can change, and I understand that, and we don't want to discourage people from buying property in our town or anything like that.
That's the reason why we don't charge a transfer
But the
stamp
problem
tax.
comes in is if we have to rush through it and we miss something,
Right.
we meaning our departments, or the departments aren't there, or someone is off, you have to stop someone from completing someone's building permit that applied for theirs 3 weeks ago. You have to stop someone from getting services in different areas because now this is more of a priority. And I don't think that's fair to kind of have those things held up, especially if you're getting 15 a day sometimes.
Well, I know another town that was on that list, if it was in a certain period of time, they made them take a bond. Whatever that would be, against.
That's another approach, yes.
Yes, and I think that might work, because if you're, you know, it doesn't help us to take
They would
an
have to give
extra.
the village a surety bond just in case the village made a mistake on the transfer stamp?
Well, yes,
And we
because,
missed a fee?
yes. And because if it's so quick, you know,
That's more cumbersome than charging them a fee.
Right, I'd rather pay, because you still have to pay for the surety bond. Surety bonds aren't
And
free.
you gotta
they
figure out how to
they
do
have to
it.
pay for the surety bond,
Right.
not us.
That's what I'm saying, Don.
Right.
So You're
And
either
fill out
gonna
the
pay,
paperwork
you're either
and-
gonna pay
Yeah,
the
but
administrative rush
look-
fee, or you're gonna pay the surety
But
bond
look
fee.
at this, the rush fee doesn't help us become more
Don't
accurate.
even go there, Gary.
The rush
One at a
fee
time.
doesn't help us become more accurate. We're still,
Hopefully it's a
Neither does,
deterrent.
but Don, neither does the surety bond.
no, but with the surety bond, if we miss something, we get the money. If we miss something with the rush fee and rush through it, we don't, it's
But have you
gone.
ever read
But
the
how-
language on a surety bond? Remember when we had a surety bond from the former owner of the Pancake House over here
And who
on
would be looking at it after
147th
the
Street?
fact?
They gave us a surety bond?
Pardon me?
And who would be looking at that address after the fact in that amount of time to see if there was something missed?
Yeah. How are we gonna know?
Things have cropped up after we've
Right,
done
we've
transfer
talked
stamps.
about things 10 years down the road or 3 years down the road, but it's not gonna pop up in 90 days or 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I haven't
You look
seen it since I've been
into,
here.
applying some sort of fee.
I will double
kinda
check,
like
but,
the
but
surety bond.
I would say that I'm 90% sure, and I will follow up, that a modest fee that reflects the cost to the village to expedite the process would be legal. A tax would not.
There's no extra cost, it's just, it's more risk for us that we're
Right.
gonna miss a fee.
But
Well,
Don,
it's not
but
a
the
dollar
problem
cost,
is
it's an
that
efficiency cost.
It's, the problem now, Don, is that it's happening now. We've got customers coming to the window all the time that
Yeah,
don't
no,
come
I
even
understand.
within 5 days. So everyone still has to drop what they're doing
I'm-
and scramble around.
I'm gonna find out from that one town how they handle the bond.
Well,
That's all
my
I know.
recommendation would be to the department heads, if you don't get it within at least 3 business days and you can't get to it, you can't get to it. Then you have to say, I can't get to it. I mean, we can't force,
Well-
I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that we're doing this. I mean, if we
Why-
can get to it, we can, but if
Why
we
don't we,
don't.
why don't we continue this to be
Yes.
continued?
Well, hold on. I don't want to continue this on and on and on and on and on into perpetuity. We need
Nick is
to,
Nick is
address
gonna
this
give
right
us a
away.
legal opinion
and that's
on the
fine,
fee.
but also you have to pay attention to what the surety bond language says, because not all surety bonds are that easy to
I'm
collect
going to
on.
have to talk to the village myself and ask them
Okay.
how they do it. And I'll report back to the board and see if that's an option, that's all.
If I forget to put my garbage out on Tuesday morning, it doesn't get picked up to the following week. No matter what I have in it, no matter how urgent it is, no matter how much garbage I have, if I forget to do it and I don't do it in a timely manner,
Right.
then
If you
there's
put
a
your
consequence.
garbage out once every 30 years, you might forget.
I don't put the garbage out, but I still see
Whatever.
garbage cans up there.
Never mind.
Okay, I believe that's all I have right now. Please, everyone, respond back to Superintendent Weiner with regards to your zoning questions, or issues or comments.
Thank you. Trustee Kilby.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any questions on our need to adopt the Cook County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan?
Is this a new plan, or is this an update of a
No,
plan
every
we've
4
already
years,
adopted?
every 4
Okay.
years they have to update it.
Okay,
To keep in tune with the requirements of FEMA.
Right.
So basically, if we want to get FEMA money, grants, or whatever, it's assistance, we have to adopt this plan.
yes, I have no problem. This kind of dovetails in from FEMA into
With what you were
CRS
just
and
talking
everything
about,
else.
yes, stormwater management, right? Number 2, using TIF funds for the water main project. We talked about the water main from Kilpatrick to Cicero on the north side of the street is a disaster. It breaks in the summer, it breaks in the winter, it breaks in the spring. It probably has more clamps in there than probably 20 mains next to it. They've tried to work on it, nothing works, we have to replace it. The proposal is to use TIF funds to fund that project, but we don't know exactly how much it would cost to replace the water main. So we have to get a firm price from Robinson, how much to replace it, also to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row as far as the documentation so that it's legal for the TIF. And so
You're gonna
if
check with-
if the board is okay with that, yes,
I'm totally okay with it.
if the board is okay with that, we'll go forward and get that process
You're gonna find out for
started.
sure,
I found out for sure.
and Treasurer Britton needs a letter, a legal letter saying that
Yes.
this is a responsible,
Expense.
Allowable expense.
allowable expense
yeah.
from the TIF.
And it is.
And it's gonna be very, very expensive. The rough idea was, I wanna say $300 a foot. $100 a day.
Right,
It's-
right.
Well, in
It's
his memo,
expensive for
didn't he
what?
say
Hundreds
like
of thousands.
$350,000 to $450,000?
Yeah.
And that's only for just like a couple of blocks.
One
Yeah,
block.
that's what happened before when we did it on the infrastructure, that's what it is. So, you know, and they have to make it work so they don't cut off the service to the,
So you gotta put in a temporary line while they.
well, they're going to route it through the line at 145th and supply it that way, I believe. So basically, this needs to be done because it's a disaster.
If we move on this expeditiously, is this work that can get done this year before?
It's year-round work.
Oh, it is, okay, I didn't know. All right.
They would just patch it with gravel or something. I don't know how they'd get through the winter. That'd be
Right.
pretty rough, but
Right, because
they can't do concrete.
They have
Well,
to
maybe they could.
remediate the site,
They do concrete in the winter.
but, you know, when is there going to be a hard freeze and when can they actually get to it? So we'll work on, you know, it'll be worked on as fast as we possibly can. So in other details about other miscellaneous things, the Safety Committee had a meeting last night. They talked about a lot of different things, but one thing that I want to make the board aware of is they're talking about having or reviving the Midlothian Health Fair. Their proposal is to have a health fair in September, depending upon if they can get a site that is going to be usable for that, and vetting other vendors. They want to vet a lot of vendors. They've gotten a list actually from another town that has a big health fair. And the health fair is dependent entirely on if you can get enough vendors and healthcare providers for people to come. If you can't, then you might as well not have it. We're also talking about having a breakfast to feed people when they come, and another incentive for people to come. So it's not just going to be a senior health fair, it's going to be a health fair. So it's all in the planning stages, they're very enthusiastic about it, and it depends on where the rubber meets the road, if they can actually get enough people, get enough vendors to come, and get a site that would want to work with us as far as the town.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yep.
Carrie, what was that event that you and I and some of the firemen attended that was at Central Park last, like, March or April?
It's a community service.
Community
affair.
service fair?
Right.
Would it make sense to try to combine like a community service fair and a health fair together for the whole community? I know, Karen, aren't you and Helen aren't they having a community service fair at the library that you guys were going to
Saturday.
this Saturday?
It's small.
Right, but what I'm saying is, instead of the library having a small one and us having a small one and the school district having one, would it make sense for all of these organizations to partner together to have one big one?
Well, okay, I'll ask our chairperson of safety, but in my opinion is that's biting off a lot more than we can chew right now. We're just trying to get it up where it's a health fair and for health is going to be enough. Now you're going to add on to the layer of trying to get the service.
But no,
What she's saying
Central
is an
Park already,
existing-
Central Park
Join
already
with an
does one.
existing agency.
Central Park already does a community
Right.
service
Right.
fair, and so does the library.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, why wouldn't the village add on its component of the health fair to their community service fair and do it all as one big fair? You know what I'm saying? Because then you
long
already
as
have
it
other vendors that
As long as it
piggyback
doesn't
off of.
have more work and it coincides with the date of September that we're talking about.
Well, I'm just saying, all of the organizations can get together and talk about it and see if it makes sense, because to your point, the more vendors you have, then the more draw you have, then you've got vendors that might be questionable who would be more likely to come because they're gonna see the list of vendors that are already attending. So.
Chairperson Bartecki?
So, I don't know if your date is flexible, I don't know if Central Park or the school district's gonna have their fair again in March or
Every
April.
year. They do it every year.
So, I'm just wondering
We're a
if,
small committee, we have 5 people that's trying to put this together. And 3 of them work full-time jobs. I work two part-time jobs that are like full-time jobs sometimes. Well, one of them is, but, we really, I mean, I think this year we should just focus on the F1, and then maybe if that's a successful event, we can look about joining forces with another group. We also have reached out to, the Knights of Columbus, Denny, who's on our safety committee, and he's going to present it to the Knights to see if they'll help us.
Okay, all right.
You know, this year, let's try to do ours, and then next year, maybe we can combine all of them and stuff, but that might be overwhelming for a lot of people too, having way too much there at once.
One
You
never
know,
knows.
it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, maybe just reach out to the library. I would just make the suggestion that you reach out to the library and reach out to the school district and find out what vendors had come to theirs, to see if any of them would sort of cross over or mesh with some of the vendors you might invite, you know. But, I mean, continue on and schedule your event for September, but look to see what the other organizations, what groups come to theirs, and see if there's a
Maybe it's the
crossover.
same.
So,
Okay, next I would, yes, I'm sorry.
Safety committee, maybe it's not safety committee, you were made aware of the parking issue on the east side of Lawndale at the extra space storage?
Yeah, I spoke to the general manager over there, and, you know, they were asking that they don't have anywhere to park for the employees because we put no parking on the one side of the street. Obviously, they can't park within the stop sign.
Right.
And they're saying that they believe it's Metro people, plus people from the farmers parking over there. And he was asking for our help, I told him, without appropriate signage saying that it's for employees only, or customers only, you know, at that facility. There's not much we can do to enforce it. So I told him to talk to the board or the safety committee and get his recommendation for the signage he was requesting, and then we can just start to enforce it. But I also told him, well, we're not gonna sit over there and monitor who's going into business and whatnot, so if people are parking in those spots and they're not customers, they have to be complaining on those tickets.
Okay. So there's no signage whatsoever on that side of Lawndale, permanent parking?
I don't remember exactly what the signage says, but.
There's no parking on the west side,
Correct.
and there's nothing
I know
on the east side?
47th Place, it's resident-only parking. So
Right.
if there's any parking in front of their facility, I'm not sure what it says, but it doesn't say customers of.
and I mean, and on a, I think we discussed this before, on a municipal street, I don't think that we
Bless
can.
you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
As a
Thank you.
municipality,
Sorry.
can we even designate, you know, customer parking only on a public street? I mean, we could possibly put signs up that say 2-hour parking only, and maybe, hopefully that would prohibit Metro users from parking there, because certainly we've got a Metro parking lot over here that's half empty every day. They can come
But
over
we
and
don't
park.
have a meter made with the chalk that chalks the tire.
Right,
every time,
exactly.
you know, so I don't know.
So, well, maybe one of their employees can come out and chalk tires. I don't know, but I'm just saying, I don't know that we can,
Well, commuters should be parking on Lawndale.
right, they should not be.
Every street anywhere close to the train station has the signs up,
Permit parking.
permanent parking only.
Yeah, but that doesn't solve their
And
problem.
they solve the problem, because there'd be.
No.
Right.
Probably something that should have
Do
been
they
thought
have
about
no-
when they were building the building.
Yeah, exactly. Do they have no parking on their physical lot at all? Not even in the back? There's
No.
not a couple
Don't
parking
you remember
spots?
this was the big discussion we had right after you and I became
They
trustees?
painted lines on the.
And where we,
I was face down most of the summer.
the plans changed.
Yes.
Yeah, there was supposed to be parking in front and along the side, instead it became some
big
kind of
behemoth of a
reservoir or
building.
something.
Right, right, exactly.
Okay,
Okay.
so maybe that's something the safety committee can, but I don't know if that's not really safety, that's just something we gotta decide
We
to.
just gotta figure out what we wanna give them, and then the order of public works, put up the sign.
Can I, I've got an idea. Doesn't.
You weren't
the-
recognized.
Pardon?
The 2-hour parking thing
Go on,
doesn't really.
stop her.
And
No.
we don't have anybody that's gonna be able to sit over there and just monitor
Enforce
that.
Right.
and that.
Okay, it was
If
just a
says
thought.
2-hour parking, I'm not sure they're gonna be worried about that either, or, I don't know, legally, would you have the ability? I told them that should have probably been something that they had in their building permits to say where their designated area for parking was, but
Right.
that's outside my scope, we just enforce them pretty well.
And unless they have employees only working 2 hours at a time, it doesn't help them.
Right. Well, can I ask this question? Does the village own that little Metro lot that's right there on Lawndale, that's on the west side? Since we own that,
They can park there, they could just have to pay.
Do we own it, or does Metro own it?
It's a Metro lot.
Metro
oh,
owns it.
Metro owns it, the village
The little
doesn't?
one across from there, I thought the only lot we owned was the one by the train station.
Yeah.
The only
That's it.
one we
All
own
the
is the
others are
one on
Metros.
Waverly.
Waverly, that's right.
Oh, so we don't
Metro
own that one on
It's
Lawndale?
Metro.
It's, okay.
Metro
All
lot.
right, well, yeah, they can park there, and they would, either their employees pay, or they pay for their employee parking.
Which means that they would have to walk to the train station and then come back.
Unless they put the app on their phone.
Unless they put
Right.
the app on their phone.
Oh, that's true. So I'm sure a customer who wants to check that place out will have the app on his phone to.
I will let the manager of Extra Space Stores know that we are looking into it. I'm sure she's watching.
Okay, next I'm gonna ask the board, do they want a newsletter for December?
Do we have enough time?
So,
We do.
No,
No,
So-
I don't think we do.
No, not enough time, no, you don't.
no time and no, I don't want one.
I'm really torn with this.
Yep.
And I'm really torn with it because I love having a newsletter, and I think it's beneficial. And I think Sharon does an amazing job of putting it all together, and I think our proofreader does a good job of proofing it. The problem is, because it's not a priority and it's not something that is someone's job, we had to have all of the articles in by August 10th. And the newsletter didn't go out till October.
Right.
And it was supposed to go out in September, right?
And I'm forgetful, and I know I have forgotten to put things in there that then I feel bad about, and then, so I really feel like we need to move forward. I really think we need to have a better process or have someone that's in charge of it. And I don't mean Sharon, I don't want to take anything away, because I think she really does an amazing job. But it's not her only job, and it's not, it's something that was kind of given to her on the side, and she's only a part-time worker, and she does the website, and she does all these other things that, what happens is,
The problem with why it was late wasn't Sharon.
I don't think it was Sharon.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't anything to do with
I
Sharon.
don't think Sharon did anything wrong, that's what I'm trying to get out, but the problem comes in is that, then for 2 weeks, Sharon has to stop doing the website or stop doing all these other things to work strictly on this, and I just feel like if we're gonna do it, it should be timely. I hate seeing stuff from August go out in October, when, we're talking about kids are back to school. I mean, the police department's page had, drive safely, kids are going back to school. Well, that was 3 months ago, So I just kind of feel like we need to really put our money, if we're gonna be all in, we're gonna be all in, and we need to make it a good, something that goes out timely, that has current information, that there's somebody giving us direction on, put this in, don't put that in, this is somebody who has that skill set.
Well, if I could just jump in, part of it was the proofreader, or editor, was going back to school teaching day and night, okay? And that was part of the delay. It was very poor timing on our part when she was starting all these semesters. So we would just have to make sure the timing. The other thing, I guess, is that she did a lot of proofing that didn't get in the newsletter. So,
Right, and I think too that we had a lot more articles than would possibly fit into the newsletter, so there was a lot of.
And we didn't even add all the stuff that we could have.
No, there a lot of it came out for maybe the second newsletter in a row. We haven't got some of the stuff in, but the bottom line is that, yes, I agree with you that it would be nice if we had a designated editor who would do the proofing, the editing, and also the sort of give a pre-layout, so that it would give the departments a better idea of how much space they would have. But right now, it's in flux, because the departments don't know how much space we need for other items, and there are other items that need to be in there, and so a lot of it was the proofing held up things, and then trying to fit different things in there that one person wanted this, one person wanted this, so we had to, you know, and we had to edit this, leave off that, oh, no, we want to put in this, it gets
But
worse.
that's
It
the
gets worse and
problem.
worse.
Because, and I know I'm the first one to blame. I obviously think all the things that we've worked on is the most important thing that everybody wants to know, where I'm sure
That's right.
Kathy thinks everything from the building department is most important, and you think everything from Public Works is more, I mean, we could go on and on because we all
Well-
are passionate about it, and there's nobody that's, you know, it's not even just what's important, there's nobody kind of overseeing it that's what they're supposed to do. And again, I mean, I think there's a lot of things, my own opinion, like, a lot of people don't want to have to carry a newsletter around. They want to look on the internet, they want to get an email with a link, that would save us postage. Maybe that could go towards having some more of these other things. I don't know, and I'm not,
It would actually
I'm not
cost us more.
downing it.
I've gotten a lot of great feedback.
I agree, I
that they're
love the
getting in the
newsletter.
mail. But here, let me just say this. The village board made a decision that doing this the right way was too expensive. And we decided to do it in-house, and I assumed that everyone understood that it was not gonna be pretty, or.
Well,
or
these are all the
pretty.
concerns I brought up when
It'll
we
be
first
smooth.
discussed this. I think I was the one who said that, you know, our department heads aren't editors, they're not, you know, they're not reporters, so they're not gonna write it the way that
It should be written.
it should be written, and you can't, you know, but, again, I'm not, Dan, you do a great job, I'm not talking about you, clearly, Chief, you are.
Or any other department head.
You are.
I thought police this time was pretty good. I thought it had a lot of topical things, you know, it had an animal on there, you know, I thought that was
If we
always
want it
good.
to be better, then we have to pay for it.
Well,
It's not about being better, everyone's kind of missing my point. I'm not saying anyone's bad. I'm saying that it's just, it seems to be a little, it doesn't seem to go out, able to go out, and, you know, again, I'm gonna just use this one. We had everything was in by August 10th, and it didn't go out till October,
Well,
so it's kind of outdated.
Okay, everything,
So some of the
everything wasn't
things-
in by August 10th, but most of it was. But here's the thing, when we started this, I gave you two choices. I gave you Fanning, which is an edited, and they write the articles, they go and report it, they go and do it. And I gave you Plan B, which was cheaper, but without any editing. Now, Fanning was much more expensive because Fanning charged.
Isn't there some, but, okay, so first of all, you're right, you did that.
Yes.
And I remember, we talked about this, I remember being in the audience and we were talking about this. So it took a very long time to have this discussion, so I agree. And you did tell us those two things. But
Good.
like everything else, we do a lot of changes, so maybe we could come up with a happy medium. Like some of the events were almost passed by the time the
So you
newsletter
want,
went
so
out.
you want us to find if we can hire an editor?
I don't think that's the problem. We have an editor that's free,
I don't,
We have a proofreader.
proofreader.
Well, yeah.
Well, but she does editing as well. She
Yeah,
does.
but an editor who would say to this department, no, you got too much in, we can't fit all this stuff in, well, you have to cut down your article.
But she's free, and if something else more important comes up, she needs to go
yes,
take care
right.
of
And
the.
If
that's-
she's
that's-
got a work event that happens, her
Right.
work takes
No,
priority over this
seriously,
letter.
what happened this time, the timing was just very
Right.
poor.
But it could be
because-
any time, I mean,
Right.
things come up,
Exactly.
life happens, and.
No, but she's pretty good about getting stuff done. When she got
I'm
the
not-
stuff,
This wasn't a, this
So-
wasn't a
so what are you
complaint.
suggesting?
I'm just simply saying that maybe we could look at some other options that would, you know, get the newsletter out, you know, give us some ability, you know, get it out, maybe also give us some suggestions on reports,
I've
you know,
lost
on how to report, how to write it, you know, work with the
Newsletter.
department heads.
The proofreader has offered informally to give us a workshop on how to write a newsletter.
I mean, I'm willing to try anything at this
And
point.
yeah, but if you tried a newsletter this time, the old system, I am going to pre-write a newsletter with the articles that I know should be in there that are not department articles. And then basically, that should give us an idea of how much space, like your point is, you're always asking me, how much space do I have? You don't know. So the bottom line is, it would give us an idea of how much space that each department would have for their articles.
But again, it's not just space, because if you tell me I have a page, then I'm gonna fill up a page. My page might not be as important as somebody else's.
Right.
We need someone who's gonna say, you know what, this is really more of a newsletter thing, and maybe we should ask the police department to take out their microchip. Not that that would ever happen, because clearly that was very important. However,
Yes, go ahead.
However, maybe that would be something that this person who was responsible would say, you know what, we have an event coming up that we really need to, that people are gonna really wanna know about, we're gonna need a little bit extra space, so maybe 2 departments this time who are just
Share a
gonna
page.
Share a page.
Right.
But we don't have any of that, we're all doing our own little thing.
So the question on the table was, are we gonna have one for December? And I think,
Yeah, can I do that? Can I say to you that yours isn't as important? Because I haven't so far, but I
Do we
want.
wanna fight? I mean,
Yeah.
Or we set up the newsletter so that every department has a page.
No. never.
Why not?
Not in a million years, you don't have enough. You need more room for the stuff that's not department stuff. That's the trouble with the newsletter.
And you want stuff that's really new things, I think that's what the resident.
Newsworthy stuff.
Newsworthy, new things.
Okay, I'll give you an example. In this newsletter, almost every department had a whole page. Building department did not need to have a whole page. We certainly could have gotten rid of 2 I think Nick wrote 3 articles, and then I threw in, we had to put in the flyer for the Fall Fest. So we certainly could have deleted 2 of those articles and just had the Fall Fest thing in there. But again, if you remember, when we first started this process, I had asked you if you could have Sharon, because newsletters can be formatted different ways. So take example, the library newsletter, okay? The library newsletter format changes every month, the way stories are boxed out and blocked out. I had asked if we could have something like that, and you told me no.
Sharon has a different format each time.
so
Well, and
the
that's
question on
fine,
the table
so-
is, are we gonna do it for
Yes,
December?
and then go from there.
Let's
The real
answer the
reason
question on the table about December.
And
The
I
real
think the
reason
answer's
for
no.
December would be for the Christmas parade. That would be the main
Yeah, but
beneficiary.
you know it won't go out till January, so.
It
Right.
will, it
And-
will. My life depends on it, it will.
But the parade will be in the Park District brochure, and that's
Yeah.
usually in the libraries.
And it'll be in the library brochure.
Yeah, and those seem to go out without a lot
And
of
that's
difficulty.
the first Saturday of.
And everybody
December.
knows that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so no,
No,
wait till January, February, March, I don't know.
March.
spring?
Up to you.
We have to have newsworthy articles.
I would totally agree.
I
But
clearly think all the things that we put in the newsletter are very newsworthy, Chief, just so you know.
I,
If we only knew how to write.
I had a dramatic pause, so you could say
Well,
that.
that's why I'm here to help you, You're a lucky guy.
I think that maybe if we're not having a newsletter, maybe on a break, if your editor has a break, maybe she could set up a time when we could actually pay her some money to come
Why don't,
out.
she would just come out.
Okay, well,
I would love that, I would love
yeah,
to.
I would think that
have
would be
class.
beneficial. So
This
the
isn't important.
consensus is,
no.
No newsletter.
But remember, we do have the website, so if you're eager to write an article and you want it out there in a timely fashion, you can put it on our website. We have a news feed and we have the page for every department, or multiple pages, or multiple links to other pages if you want. So we could do that real time, or relatively real time. Won't take months, takes days, if you prepare it correctly.
okay,
Our website does not have the capability of, you can do links to things like that, but.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean if you do it correctly?
Well, if it doesn't go through either the editor, the proofreader, and who else was involved in the timeliness of the issue?
Rita?
Rita, that's right, it's Rita's fault. So,
Well, I just think if something is going to go out, it really needs to be, it has to be correct. It has to, you can't be ending sentences and with prepositions, and you can't, I mean, seriously. You know, it has to be grammatically correct. I just think if it's not, it just is a bad reflection on us.
I'm not saying we shouldn't proof our newsletter.
No.
I hope no one took that, that's what I'm
No.
saying, 'cause
No one thinks that's Andy.
I
Okay,
assure
so-
you that I think it needs to be proofed.
And I think perhaps maybe our newsletter needs to be, instead of paragraph,
Short bullets.
short bullet points.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I would agree,
Statements.
Yeah.
people don't they don't want, it's gotta be little
Right.
bites. Otherwise,
Right,
they don't read it.
The long articles are terrible unless they're on one very important newsworthy
Or they have
topic.
cute little puppies on them.
Well, the puppy got me, but,
Also remember, we send out every month the water bill, and on the water bill, you can make a reference to a link or some other article somewhere else.
we can try.
Yeah, but that, you know, I mean, we are limited and, you know.
Yes, you're limited to
Third
one
of a
sentence.
per-
And the
third
way,
of a-
and the way we seem to have things planned, it usually doesn't coincide. It only would go
Yes,
out
it
when
will
you're-
require
Information
planning.
On the water bill, like 6 months in advance because of the cycle.
Right.
3 months in advance.
Kind of like our, no.
That's all you need.
No,
No.
third.
Sometimes 6 months in advance, depending on how the cycle's gonna work, Carl. And
The
when
cycle
event
works
is.
in a 3-month cycle.
I
so-
understand that.
Right, but if you're
Never mind.
having something for October 1st, you
Yeah.
would need to get it out by,
3 months before.
Do you have anything else tonight, Trustee Kennedy?
I do, actually.
Okay,
I
why
do
don't you
have
move on to
other,
the next
two
item?
other hopefully quick things. I ran into my favorite crossing guard at 147th and Pulaski. And I always ask her how her job is going and what's going on, and, because I notice she's out there.
your favorite.
My favorite, because actually, 10 years ago, that was the same person I asked about right turns, why, you know, she brought up about right turns and that people were on their cell phone and were ignoring her. And she said the same thing a couple days ago, that she's still having people ignoring her basically. If you notice, she sort of stays right in by the right turn when she's crossing. She doesn't go in the center because she's afraid that the kids are gonna get run over by a right turner who is still on their cell phone. And she says basically she has gotten bumped by people. And
Can we give her a bullhorn
and so bumped, in other words,
with a car?
they haven't,
They hit her?
yes, they sort of nudged her, let's put it that way.
That's
And
not-
so,
Our crossing guard is, I just want to be clear, our crossing guard has gotten hit by a car.
sort of, they stopped very close to her where she didn't know they were going to stop. And she has looked, and they are on their cell phone. And this has happened time and time and time and time again. Now, for the safety of the crossing guard, for the safety of the kids, and just as a general policy, I don't know what we're doing to, in cell phone enforcement. That's my only question. I think cell phone enforcement is important. To me, it's important.
Well-
That's all I'm saying.
Well, I can tell you that we have a grant that we get, I think $88,000 last year that we have extra patrol on the street doing seatbelt and cell phone enforcement. I know the officers during their regular patrol, but the problem is, Don, we only have so many officers on the
right,
street at a
exactly.
time. And I would love, personally, to have an officer at every school during school times and an officer where every crossing guard is. Ideally, that would be my perfect ideal world, and I'm sure Chief Delaney would like that, but we'd have to double our force.
Could we give them body cams so that if we catch someone on the body cam,
Well, you
send them a
can't give them,
ticket?
you can't give them a ticket for that.
Why?
Because just like streetlights, you can't, you have municipalities over a certain amount. What is it, 100,000, Nick? For the cameras, to give tickets for speeding in that?
Yes, I believe so.
You have to
Over
take
100,000 what?
residents. There's, the law states, what is it, the red light cameras in that? You can't give it for speeders, or we can't use our stop sign, you know, we can't use that to issue tickets because we don't have over 100,000 residents.
Well, how is Crestwood issuing tickets? They don't have 100,000
They don't
residents.
for
They have a
speeding.
red
They don't
light.
for
That's
speeding.
red light
or
What do they
for-
have it for?
Red light camera.
red
Only
light-
for red
only
light
for red
violations.
lights.
For right-hand turn on red?
Or blowing, you know, doing the, not stopping at the red light.
Well, can we get cameras then to catch people on their cell phones? You can't do that either?
You're not gonna be able to
No.
identify who the driver is unless you stop them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all, that's a comment. I know it's impossible to enforce everything
So
in the
I'm
law.
not saying it's impossible, I'm simply saying we would need extra resources, unless Chief Delaney has some other way that he can think of to have it. I mean, I agree with you, I think, you know, when I was on the safety committee before I was on here, you know, we did that audit of what happens, and I mean, we could certainly stand to have additional resources and officers, you know, doing, but we.
I think the officer's salary would be paid just by the cell phone
Well, the
enforcement.
state law has changed with regard to the ability of local municipalities to write cell phone tickets, distracted driving tickets. They are no longer allowable under the administrative adjudication procedures.
Right.
But we
Now
don't
they
send
must
ours
go.
to the court, they come here.
They have to
They
go
can't
where?
do
Not anymore.
They can't, wait, they
No, they're
can't come
moving
here, they have to go
violations
to
now,
the
right?
violation.
Yep, they're moving violations.
I'm confused.
The old law was that for a first violation, it could be brought into administrative adjudication within the municipality. The new law says the very first ticket, every violation, is now a moving violation and must be adjudicated in the circuit court and not here.
So it has to go to America.
Right.
But that's for the first one, what about the second one?
Same thing.
They're all moving violations.
Oh, they're all
They're all
moving
moving
violations now?
The old
Okay.
law said the first one was not.
Okay. So my biggest concern that you bring up is the fact that our crossing guard feels that her life is in danger, as is the lives of the children, and that she's actually getting bumped by cars because they're not paying
Well,
attention.
she's having to tell people to stop, you know, she's
Well,
physically.
then just at that intersection, since this
Well,
is
I'm
the
just
heart of
ask-
town with the schools,
I'm
maybe
just
should we think
asking
about
her.
putting a red light camera in? For people making right-hand turns?
Simple as, how we have right turn, no right turn during school hours, how about
It's there
starting out by
already.
just putting a sign?
That's already there.
It's already there.
That sign's already there.
Cell phone,
Well,
cell
no, it's-
phone use prohibited in the turning lanes?
It's state law.
We've got those
Yeah.
everywhere too, I think.
You know what, probably, and you probably don't have the staff, but intermittently have somebody sitting there.
Well, we do, but we have
Yeah.
everybody at all the schools too. It's just
Yeah.
at the same exact time.
Exactly,
Like, I got
so,
in front
Right.
of Bremen, I have people in front of Central Park, because same
Yeah.
thing, the way people drive over there.
Oh,
The way
Central
people drive
Park's
in
in
front of
that
the high
area.
school, they're dropping kids off in front of the high school.
same
But I
thing.
personally
I know
see,
we're not a big fan of, and I wasn't at first either, of the red light cameras. Spoke with a vendor at a pension conference that wants us to put a no red turn, no turn on red up there. And then we got constant monitoring of it. So,
I don't know, I think
the
they're-
only thing that I could say that we have an automated way. Other than that, there's no way I can designate somebody to sit there the entire time.
And I think the red light cameras might be addressed by the state legislature now with everything that's going on, and they might
they might be going away.
be
They're gonna be going away.
prohibited.
But I personally witnessed Lieutenant Hammond out there on that corner a number of times.
I don't have the numbers with me this time, I can tell you how many cell phone tickets we read at the next one, but they write them all the time.
And I see them when I go that way to the train, I stop at
Okay.
Dunkin' Donuts, so I see.
I'm just
them.
asking, and that's all in the interest of time.
But can you also check out to see if the crossing guard is also let your staff know that they're getting hit with
They
cars?
have not let us know that, so.
So I'm a
Anything
little
else?
concerned about that myself.
Well, she feels, I mean, she actually has to tell people to stop, to yell at them. They're on their phone. They're not,
I mean,
they're not stopping as you think they would. That's what the bottom line is.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
Trustee Crowley?
Oh, just a couple things tonight, sir. Just to let everybody know, CPC is beginning their toy drive again in the next few weeks. They will be having all the boxes getting ready to be put out to start collections. For the open house, the police department put out a really cute little flyer about some of the things they're going to be offering for kids and for adults. They did confirm that there is going to be a self-defense instructor, the gentleman who runs the class out of Ray Day, Master Dexter Grove, is going to come in, and he has designated 2 free classes, one for children and one for adults, and they're on the flyer, I think one's
We
on
advertise for women.
women, yeah. And it's 10:30 is the kid, you'd have to look on the flyer, sorry.
10:30 to 11 is the kids, 11:30 is the.
Well, is for the women, and it is a free self-defense class. So we are asking that anybody who wants to participate, call and just reserve a reservation, just so we know it's gonna be held in this room, just so we know how many expecting, and if it starts to get too big, we'll have to, only let people who made reservations come. The day of the open house here, so it's the
October
26th. Saturday, October 26th.
10 to 1.
10 to 1, yeah, is the open house. The Community Service Committee, as I told everybody, had sent out a letter regarding our having our Community Service Day in January with Martin Luther King Day. We have started getting responses from business, and everything is very positive. So I will be keeping everyone updated on that, but I just kind of wanted to give an update. And the only other thing I had on my agenda was the newsletter, which I think we covered quite well, unless you'd like to talk about it.
No.
Okay, other than that, I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. Attorney Valdez?
Yes, just very briefly, the project team for the RFP for the Public Works Building met today and interviewed 2 of the finalists of the 4 finalists for the architects to handle that project. We are scheduled for October 21st, being Monday, as the project team having a recommendation for board approval on Wednesday, as we don't, next Wednesday at the last regular board meeting. As we don't have another board meeting in October, we had a very tight deadline. We obviously put the request for qualifications on August 29th. We received an incredibly successful interest in 15 firms that applied, some outstanding firms. So by Monday, we will have a recommendation for the board approval for an architect, which would be 55 days from the request for qualifications to you actually picking someone, voting someone. That's it.
Well, the problem with picking the architect and all of that so far is we don't have funding yet.
Right, we're not gonna pay them anything until we get the funding.
You just let them know that.
We let them all know as we're interviewing.
We let them know
them.
what's going
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, the only thing I was gonna talk about the open house, but I'll say it again, Saturday, October 26th, 10 to 1. The whole place is open, all the departments will be here. Come out and have a good time, and apparently we have the police department hogging everyone, so
Wow.
maybe someone will stop up front and say hi to me.
That was kind of hurtful.
Followed by the Fall Fest
That
on
was kinda-
Sunday,
that was
October
kinda hurtful,
27th.
sir.
Followed by the Fall Fest, Scarecrow Fest at the Rain Ready Community Garden that Sunday from
Noon to 3.
noon to 3.
And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's lovely scarecrows.
You said the textile, right? No. Did somebody?
2 is the textile.
Right. Noon to 2 is
On
textile.
Sunday.
Sunday, October 27th.
Do we have a place to drop textiles off in advance?
Yes, in the foyer.
Yeah. The foyer, there's a box right inside the door.
Oh, I meant like bags of stuff.
If you put it there, we will retrieve, it will get retrieved.
Okay.
And then just remind everyone of the stormwater studies coming up Monday.
October 21st.
Monday, October 21st, will be the Bremen Heights study from 6:30 till whenever. And then Monday, October 28th, will be the Belly Button Hill study from, I got 7 o'clock. More information is available at Village Hall.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to, I was planning on attending the one on the 21st and the 28th. I will not be able to attend the one on the 21st. I have a commitment I have to take care of.
And that's all I have. Clerk Mosco?
Just a reminder, this evening, right before the meeting, I sent out some meeting minutes from a board meeting, and also copies of minutes from, I believe it was 6 weeks closed session minutes, so that we don't end up having them all backed up like we did last time. So if anyone wants more time to look at those, the closed session minutes obviously are shorter than the board minutes, but if anyone wants more time to look at those, please let me know. Otherwise, we will put those on the agenda for next week. And that is all I have.
And unfortunately, I forgot something, so I apologize. So I was reached out, the Boy Scouts reached out, the local Boy Scout troop reached out to me about the village buying Christmas wreaths back to Christmas. every year, and I just talked to Superintendent Sperry, and he doesn't recall doing that anytime in the recent past, so, does anyone recall what
We
that?
never bought
I don't
wreaths,
work, no.
no.
Because the village doesn't hang out wreaths anywhere in
No.
the
Well, that
decorations,
was
do
my
they?
question, where would we even hang them?
You know, if anybody wants to, they could send us and we could buy them personally. I would buy a wreath for my home.
I buy one every year. How about if I just share everyone with the
Yeah.
email,
Yes.
contact, and then,
We can buy our own wreaths.
yeah. That sounds great. Okay, thank you. Seeing there's no further business coming before the board, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
You've been slipping,
Meeting adjourned.
you've been slipping here.
Now, could you ask Nick to, either take my phone call or give me a call before he takes off?
Yes, Attorney Valadez?
Yes,
Absolutely. Do you have his number?
I believe I do.
Okay.
Yeah, is he gonna call me right now?
You gonna call him right now?
Or I
Yeah, I'll call him right now.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Bye-bye.